So I have a serious question for you to start us off today.
Okay, hit me.
When I say the word ninja, and be totally honest here,
Yeah.
what is the very first image that flashes into your brain?
I mean, if I'm being honest, it's the total cliche. Someone in the full black pajamas,
Right.
face mask, hiding up in the rafters, maybe throwing a smoke bomb or a shuriken star.
Exactly. It's theatrical, right? It's Hollywood.
Mm.
It's the literal fighting ninja.
Yeah.
But today we are actually going to talk about becoming a ninja, specifically a recruitment ninja. And before you roll your eyes, I want to clarify, we aren't asking you to wear a mask to work.
Though, metaphorically, the concept of stealth and speed and precision, that is actually the entire point of this conversation.
It really is. We're doing a deep dive today into the Recruitment School curriculum.
Mm-hmm.
And just to set expectations, this isn't some fluffy motivational speech about believing in yourself or manifesting success. This is a very mechanical, nuts and bolts look at how to actually operate in an agency recruitment business environment. We're looking at a system built on, I think it's something like 30 years of industry data.
Yeah, 30 years. And we're doing this to solve a very specific, very painful problem. I want you, the listener, to imagine a scenario. Imagine you are a new consultant. You've just landed your first job at a recruitment agency. It's Tuesday morning of your first week.
The honeymoon phase is over.
Exactly. You're sitting at a desk. The phone is just staring at you. The computer screen is blank. And you have this sudden sinking realization.
I have absolutely no idea how to make money here.
That's the one. That gap between getting the job and actually being successful at the job in recruitment is massive. It can feel like a canyon, honestly. And our mission today is to build a bridge across that canyon. We want to show you how to move from confused rookie to high-performing consultant or, a ninja as fast as humanly possible.
And fast really is the operative word here.
Mm-hmm.
There was a statistic in the source material that genuinely stopped me in my tracks.
Right.
It was about human attention spans, which we all know they're getting shorter, but the numbers are terrifying.
They really are. If you go back to the year 2000, so essentially the dawn of the smartphone era, the average human attention span was about 12 seconds.
Yep.
That was the window you had to grab someone. But by 2020, that number had dropped to 8 seconds.
We are literally losing our ability to focus.
Mm.
We have the attention span of a goldfish. I think goldfish might be beating us at this point.
Right. I think they are, yeah. But here is the kicker for anyone working in recruitment or sales for that matter. The source argues that in this specific industry, because it's so fast-paced and so competitive, you don't even have 8 seconds. You have 6.
6 seconds.
6. That's it. You have 6 seconds to grab a client's attention on a cold call. 6 seconds to pitch a candidate's profile. 6 seconds to make an impact. If you fumble, if you ramble, if you say too many times, you're done. They've mentally checked out.
And that is exactly why the ninja branding makes sense.
Mm.
It's not about being cool. It's about economy of motion. You have to be fast, you have to be precise, and you have to be impactful. If you're slow and clumsy, you simply won't survive in a 6-second world.
Right. So the question becomes, if we are operating in this high-pressure environment, what are we actually aiming for? Like, what does winning look like?
I assume most people on their first week would just say a big commission check.
Well, sure, that's the result of winning. But you can't just do a commission check. You can't sit down at 9 a.m. and do money. The source defines success in a much more grounded, almost mechanical way. It says success is the accumulation of a lot of small wins.
I really like that framing. It takes the pressure off the big, scary end goal and puts it on the immediate moment. It makes the job feel less like playing the lottery and more like construction. You're just laying bricks.
Exactly. And the curriculum emphasizes that you get to decide the metric for success. For some people, it is money. For others, it's being the top biller in the office or getting accolades or just the satisfaction of placing people in jobs that change their lives. But while the measurement is flexible, you can choose your destination, the method to get there is actually incredibly rigid.
Rigid in what way?
In the sense that you can't cheat the physics of the business. There is a specific engine that drives recruitment. And understanding that engine centers on one core philosophy: controlling the controllable.
Yes. Okay. This brings us to my absolute favorite analogy from the research, the Fender guitar amplifier.
I had a feeling this would resonate with you.
It's just such a perfect visualization for anyone who has ever seen a band play. So for the listener, picture a classic guitar amp.
Yeah.
You've got the box, the speaker inside the tubes, and on the front you have the knobs. The source asks you to think about how you interact with that amp. You plug in your guitar and you turn the volume knob.
Right. Let's look at that volume knob. That represents your input. You have total physical agency over it. You can turn it down to 1 so it's a whisper, or you can crank it to 10 and shake the walls. You control the signal going in.
But, and this is the crucial part that I think most new consultants miss, once that electrical signal leaves the volume pot and goes into the guts of the amp, do you control the sound that actually comes out of the speaker?
Strictly speaking, no. If the tubes are blown or the speaker cone is torn or the wiring is just bad, you can turn that volume knob all day long. You can crank it to 11, but the output is going to be terrible. It's going to be static and noise.
So let's translate that to a Tuesday morning in a recruitment office. What is the volume knob and what is the speaker?
Okay, so the volume knob is your activity. It's the raw effort. You have 100% control over how many marketing calls you dial today. You have 100% control over how many resumes you format. You have control over how many meetings you request. You control the input.
But you don't control the sound.
No, you do not control if a candidate bombs the interview and swears at the hiring manager. You don't control if a client's budget gets slashed overnight by corporate. You don't control if a candidate accepts a counteroffer from their current boss. That is the output.
You know, when I first read that, it sounded a bit depressing. Like, oh, great, I have no control over the actual result. But the more I thought about it, it's actually incredibly liberating.
It is, isn't it? It takes the weight off.
Totally. Because if you're a new consultant, you spend so much emotional energy stressing about the no. You stress about the client hanging up or the candidate ghosting you, but the source is saying, stop stressing about the output. You literally can't fix the speaker cone from the outside. Just focus on the volume knob.
It shifts the focus from anxiety to action. If you obsess over the things you can't change, you burn out. If you focus on the controllable elements, the process eventually takes care of the rest.
Speaking of process, let's look at the map. The source provides this massive diagram called the generic recruitment process. And when I say massive, I mean it's this huge chain of events.
It really shows you how complex the job is. It starts way back at marketing, goes to client visit, then sourcing, filtering, assessing interviews, negotiation offer, pre-start checks. It's a very long road.
And visually, the source material does something really interesting with this diagram. They color code it. They highlight the steps that are red. And red means you control this.
And if you look closely at that diagram, most of the chain is not red.
That's the scary part. You look at the interview stage, not red. Because you can't control if the candidate shows up in flip-flops. You look at negotiation, mostly not red because you can't force them to agree on a salary. So let's get specific for the new starter listening to this. What actually is red? What are the ninja moves we can actually control?
There are really only 4 main ones. If you are doing anything else, you aren't in control. The first one is marketing. That's the act of picking up the phone and finding business. You decide when you pick up that receiver.
Okay, number 2.
Client visits. Getting in front of people, whether that's face-to-face or on a video call. You control the effort you put into setting those up. You can't force them to say yes, but you control the ask.
The third one is my favorite term in the industry, and I think it defines the difference between a rookie and a pro. Floating.
Yes, floating. This is aggressive in the best possible way. This is when you don't wait for a job advertisement. You don't wait for permission. You call a company proactively and say, hey, I have this amazing candidate. I know you aren't hiring right now, but you need to see them because they will change your business.
It's creating an opportunity rather than waiting for one.
Exactly. And the fourth red line is picking up the new role, the act of taking the job brief. You control the quality of information you get. You control whether you ask the tough questions or just take the order like a waiter.
So if you're in your first week and you feel lost, which you will, you just need to look at those 4 red boxes. If you aren't doing one of those 4 things, marketing, visiting, floating, or taking a brief, you aren't turning the volume knob.
Precisely. You are just standing there hoping the amp makes noise on its own. And in this business, hope is not a strategy.
Okay, so we have the philosophy, control the volume. Now let's get into the science, because the source actually gives us a mathematical equation for success. It looks like high school algebra, but for making money.
I love a good formula. It cuts through the noise and emotional ups and downs. The formula is success equals consistent activity times quality times time.
Let's break that down. Consistent activity, that's the volume knob again.
Correct. But notice the word consistent. Doing 100 calls on Monday because you're panicked and then 0 on Tuesday because you're tired is not the same as doing 20 calls every day. The math doesn't work if the input is sporadic. It has to be a rhythm.
Quality. This is where skill comes in.
Yes. This is your ability. How good is your pitch? How well do you match the candidate to the job? Because remember the multiplication sign. If your activity is high, say you make 1,000 calls, but your quality is 0, Well, anything multiplied by 0 is 0.
And finally, time.
You have to sustain the effort. You can't be a ninja for a week and expect to retire. It takes time for the flywheel to spin.
Now, there's a catch here. The expert in the source mentions a pretty big caveat. This formula isn't just magic. It has a prerequisite.
Right. It says this formula works only if you are working a market that has employment demand.
That's a crucial reality check.
It is. You can have high activity and high quality, but if you are recruiting for, say, VHS repairmen in 2026, the formula equals 0. You cannot recruit for jobs that don't exist. So identifying a viable market is step 0.
Okay, assuming we aren't selling VHS repair services, the source lists 5 core drivers. These are like the physical gears that drive that success formula. If I'm a new consultant, what should I be ticking off my list every day?
Think of these as the specific tasks that move the needle. Driver number 1 is marketing calls, calling prospects to explore work. Driver number 2 is client visits, getting front of mind with decision makers.
Driver 3 was interesting to me. Candidates registered?
Well, you cannot sell what you don't have. If you don't have talent ready to go, you have no product. You need a stockpile of good candidates.
Which leads right into driver 4, floating.
Which we mentioned earlier, pitching that specific candidate to a client. The source notes that you obviously need driver 3 registered candidates to do this. You can't float a ghost.
Right. And driver 5.
Candidates on interview, getting them in the room. That is the ultimate goal of the first 4 drivers. Everything leads to the interview.
It's really a funnel, isn't it? You do the calls to get the visits. You get the candidates to do the floats. You do the floats to get the interviews.
Precisely. And to keep yourself honest, the source suggests self-imposed KPIs.
Key performance indicators.
Yes. Things like number of jobs, average fill rate, average invoice value. But also ratios. This is where it gets technical, but stick with me. For example, candidates out versus jobs registered.
Candidates out versus jobs registered. Explain why that specific one matters.
It's a measure of efficiency. If you register 10 new jobs this week, but you only send out 1 candidate CV, your ratio is terrible. It means you're great at finding work, getting the jobs, but terrible at finding workers to fill them. You're unbalanced. A ninja watches those ratios to see exactly where their process is broken.
Okay, I want to pivot to what I think is the absolute most impactful part of this research. This was the aha moment for me. Because right now, hearing about all this activity, it sounds exhausting. It sounds like the only way to succeed is to work 80 hours a week and just burn out.
It can absolutely feel that way if you just focus on activity, but the source uses a mathematical example to show you why quality in that formula is actually the secret weapon. It's what they call the power of small numbers.
Let's walk through the math. I'll play the role of the new guy again. Let me get mental whiteboard going here. Let's say in my first year I hustle. I managed to get 100 job orders. That seems like a decent effort.
It is. Now let's say your fill rate, the percentage of those jobs you actually successfully fill, is 15%. That is fairly typical for a beginner. You win some, you lose most.
Okay, so I fill 15 jobs out of my 100. And let's say my average invoice value, my fee, is $10,000 per placement.
So 15 placements times $10,000 equals $150,000 in gross profit.
Not bad for a rookie. I'd take $150K.
It is respectable. But here's the magic. Let's say you want to double your revenue next year. Most people think, I need to get 200 jobs, I need to make twice as many calls.
Which is the exact road to burnout.
Exactly. Instead, you tweak the quality. Let's say you improve your skills, you listen better to the brief, you match the candidate better, you stop working on jobs you know you can't fill, you raise your fill rate from 15% to 30%.
Okay, so wait. I still only found 100 jobs. I didn't do any extra marketing, but now I'm filling 30 of them.
Yep. 30 times $10,000 is $300,000. You just doubled your revenue, and you didn't find a single extra client.
That is huge.
Yeah.
Just by being better at the red elements, you double your income.
And it goes one step further. What if you also improve the quality of the business you chase? What if instead of taking any $10,000 fee that comes along, you target slightly more senior roles? What if your average invoice value goes from $10,000 to $15,000?
So now I have 30 placements at $15K each.
That is $450,000.
Whoa. Wait, let me just pause there. We went from $150K to $450K. That's triple the revenue. But I didn't make more cold calls. I didn't find more jobs. I just got better at filling the ones I had, and I picked better jobs to work on.
Correct. That is the ninja focus. You controlled the controllable elements with higher quality, you stopped working on dead jobs, which improved your fill rate, and you targeted better business, which improved your invoice value. This is why understanding the mechanics matters so much more than just working hard.
That is the motivation right there.
Yeah.
It's not about burnout, it's about optimization.
It's working smart backed by actual math.
Okay, I'm sold. I want the 450K. I want to be a recruitment ninja. I'm starting my first week. What is the actual action plan? Because the source gives us a specific recipe, right?
It does, and they actually call it the recipe for success. It has 3 steps, and they are deceptively simple. Step 1 is work out what you want.
And they mean really specific, right? Not just, I want to be rich.
Exact. Rich is vague. Why are you doing this job? Is it a house deposit? A specific car?
Yeah.
Freedom from debt. It needs to be visceral. It needs to be exciting enough to get you through the rejection because you will get rejected.
Step 2.
Work out what you are prepared to pay.
Now, we aren't talking about cash payments here.
No, the price here is effort, sacrifice, and discomfort. Are you willing to miss a Tuesday night out with friends to prep for a major client meeting? Are you willing to feel that knot in your stomach when you make a cold call? Every level of success has a price tag attached to it.
And step 3.
Pay the price.
Simple. Brutal, but simple.
And practically for that first week, the source outlines a strategy to help you pay that price effectively. First, identify your market. Don't be a generalist wandering around. Pick a niche. Second, become a subject matter expert.
It's an SME.
Right. Read everything. If you recruit for logistics, you should know more about supply chains than your clients do.
Which helps with that quality part of the equation we talked about.
Yeah.
If you know your stuff, your fill rate goes up.
Exactly. Third, identify your USP, your unique selling proposition. Why should they buy from you specifically? And the source has a very strict warning here. No BS allowed.
I saw that. No BS.
Clients can smell fake confidence a mile away. If your USP is I work hard, that's not a USP. That's the bare minimum. It needs to be real, tangible value.
It really comes down to reputation, doesn't it? The source mentioned something about being true to yourself and not just pushing people into jobs for a fee.
It's a massive part of the mechanics, actually. If you push a square peg into a round hole just to get a fee, you might make money today, but you lose the client tomorrow. It goes back to that 6 seconds concept. Trust takes years to build, but you can lose it in 6 seconds of bad behavior. If you operate with no BS, you build a reputation. And in recruitment, reputation is your currency.
So let's bring this all together. We've got the ninja mindset, speed, and precision, because nobody has attention anymore.
Right.
We've got the Fender amp control, the volume knob, which is your activity, and don't stress the sound, which is the outcome. We've got the red lines, marketing visits floating, and we've got the math. 450K is achievable via quality, not just sheer volume.
It is a complete ecosystem. But there is one final thought from the source that puts the ball firmly in the listener's court.
What's that?
The source states bluntly, your success is dependent on you, not your manager.
Oof. No excuses.
No excuses. Your manager provides the desk, the phone, the brand, the coffee. But you control your motivation. You control whether you pick up the phone. You control whether you actually learn your market.
It's intimidating, but it's also empowering. You are the CEO of your own desk.
Exactly. And if I can leave the listener with a provocative thought to chew on, consider the concept of floating we discussed earlier.
Pitching talent before there's even a job.
Right. In a world where attention spans are 6 seconds and speed is absolutely everything, ask yourself this. Are you the recruiter who sits back and waits for a job description to appear on a website? Or are you the recruiter who creates the job by putting an undeniable candidate in front of a manager?
That's the difference between a reactive order taker and a proactive consultant.
The math we looked at that jumped to 450K is rarely achieved by waiters. It is achieved by creators.
That is a great perspective. Stop waiting for the light to turn green. Just go.
Well, look, we have covered the core mechanics, but there is so much more depth to this. If you want to dig deeper into these mechanics, there is a ton of information over at Recruitment School to help. So go to recruitmentschool.com.au. Steve and the team are there to help you navigate that canyon.
They really have mapped out the entire journey. It's definitely worth checking out.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Remember, control the volume knob.
And pay the price.
Catch you next time.